The Batman is directed by Matt Reeves and stars Robert Pattinson as the Batman. Now, in my opinion, this film really needed to justify itself because we've not long had the Zack Snyder version of Batman, and also not long before that, we had Christian Bale's version of Batman. So when I say it needed to justify itself, I mean in terms of if it doesn't bring anything new, or if there is just the same storylines being portrayed again and again, then what's the point of it existing? Fortunately, this is a great film. This is not an origin story. This is right into the second year of Batman being Batman, and you feel like he has been Batman for a short period of time. Although Batman's new, and only has been there for 2 years, he is still very feared. That is very clear from the opening of the film. And when Batman first steps into the film, literally stepping into the film, that's when you know he means business. So the performances throughout the film are fantastic, from Robert Pattinson as Batman, who is probably the broodiest Batman that you'll ever see. He is amazing. I don't think anyone will have any hang-ups about him being Edward from Twilight now, like when he was first cast as Bruce Wayne. He's great. When he's in the Batman suit, I can't imagine anyone else being Batman right now. Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman is also a delight to have on screen. Her chemistry with Robert Pattinson is amazing. They have such a good relationship, and it's developed in quite a short period of time. Obviously a 3-hour film, but they're not always on screen together, so I feel like they've done a very good job of that. Paul Dano's take on the Riddler is terrifying, and I feel like this is such a good way to open up Batman to the public. So this world feels very much a perfect mix between Christopher Nolan's trilogy of very realistic Batman films and then Zack Snyder's fully embraced the comic magic and aliens, because there's Superman, there's Polka Dot Man, there's all of these weird, wonderful characters in Zack Snyder's universe, and this feels quite, to me, bang in the middle. The Riddler is very realistic, as if he was a real serial killer, which is why he's so terrifying. But I feel like there is enough in the world to end up becoming this a bit larger than life comic book universe. Colin Farrell is a scene stealer in this film. He is probably my favourite character in the film, from not much screen time, but he is amazing as the Penguin. So if you didn't know he was the Penguin, I'm sorry, but he's unrecognisable. The prosthetics that they've got on him, and then his voice, it just all works so well. And he is someone that I would have never cast as the Penguin, but my god, I am glad that he is. A lot of people are getting superhero fatigue at the minute, which I don't blame them. There is a lot out there, but this does not feel like your standard superhero film. This isn't like the MCU, which are good in their own right, but this is very much a gritty, dark take on the character, and it proves that it works. A lot of people gave the DCEU a lot of stick because it was, trying to be darker and grittier, but this proves that it works. I feel like this is the right direction for Batman as a solo film. I only have a couple of gripes with the film. I feel like it was a bit long. Everything that was in the film, apart from one scene, in my opinion, was necessary. I feel it could have probably been tightened up a little bit more. Only by a couple of minutes, really, but it is a very long film, so I feel like that will hurt the viewing experience if you're watching it again at home when it comes out on DVD or on streaming. And like I said, there is one scene that I do believe probably should have been left out of the film. I won't say what it is, I won't spoil it, but I think a lot of people will love that scene, if I'm honest, because of a certain character that's in it. But for me, it didn't add anything to the story. The lines that the character said could have been said by somebody else, or there could have been a different reason for what comes out of that scene. But I I feel like it was just a fan character moment, and it could have just been left out. The world is very much realised in this film. Like I say, Batman has been Batman for 2 years. This is not an origin story. You don't get an origin story for anyone apart from the Riddler. Really, you don't really get to see exactly why he does what he does. He tells you why, but you don't see it. It is just very much in with the action, in with what's going on, and there are other characters throughout Batman's time in the comics that are already existing in the world. So one thing that I really loved about the Christopher Nolan films were that you got to see Batman as Batman, and you got to see him as Bruce Wayne in and out of other people's company. So when he's with Alfred, he as Bruce Wayne, he's acting one way, and then when he's Batman, he's acting another way, and then when he's Bruce Wayne, being the billionaire out in the streets, he acts completely cocky and arrogant, and that's just a front, so people don't guess that he's Batman. And I love that. Unfortunately, you don't get anything like that here. I don't think there is any time for that in the film, so it's not a bad thing that it's left out, but it also feels like the brief glimpses of Bruce Wayne that you get, he's always in Batman mode. And I feel like it works very well for this story, but in the future stories, I would quite like to see him develop this persona to keep people's assumptions of, oh, who could be Batman away from him. This Batman suit is awesome. So you don't really get a lot of the high-tech gadgets in this one. You get a few gadgets here and there, but ultimately this is a brawler suit. So I feel like I'm not spoiling anything because there's been a few trailers out, but this suit is bulletproof, and it's amazing to watch him fight in this suit. He is aggressive. He really puts all of his anger behind every punch, and it's really, really fun to watch. The fight scenes in this film, they're not quite as good as the Batman v Superman warehouse fight. That feels like a fight straight out of Arkham, and that is awesome. This is very much just below that, though. The scenes are filmed in wide shots, so you get to see everything. There's no shaky cam, no cuts. It's very, very long takes for about 3 or 4 to 5 punches, and then it might cut to a different angle, but it stays again on that wide. It's so good. These fight scenes are incredible. And the Batmobile in this is so interesting. Like I say, he's only been Batman for 2 years, and it feels like this is his first version of the Batmobile. And hopefully we'll end up getting more versions of the Batmobile, growing on how awesome this muscle car style is. A film is only as good as its villains, and the Riddler is fantastic. He is creepy, he is scary, he feels as if, well, he feels like the Zodiac Killer. And you can tell that that's what they're going for because of the cipher and the riddles and all this, and the notes that are being left for people, but it works so well. I feel like this character could then end up becoming a campier version if he ends up being in any future films, but as it stands in this, he works to start out the universe, and I feel like he is played incredibly well by Paul Dano, who is a fantastic actor, and you can see elements of his character from Prisoners in here. Obviously, not the same at all, but just certain elements, and he is fantastic in the role. One of my favourite things about this film, just before we go, was the moments where you could see how people reacted to Batman, and then later on you'd see how the exact same people reacted to Bruce Wayne. It was so good and so refreshing because they have certain fears about Batman, but they think that Bruce Wayne, the billionaire, is really cool or stuff like that. It's really interesting. Oh, and there were moments in the film where you could see Bruce relate to other characters just with stares. He's very much silent throughout most of the film, just like looking at people, observing. He is fantastic at that. But he literally just looks at a kid and feels what that kid is feeling. He relates to that child because similar things have happened in his past, and it's a much better way of doing an origin story without having to re-show the murder of Bruce Wayne's parents. And I feel like a lot of people will appreciate still having that connection to Bruce's origin, but still being without the opera and the parents being shot in the alley. Thank you very much for watching. This is my first review, so hopefully I'll improve and get better, but this has been very fun and I love watching films, so hopefully I will do a load more reviews, and let me know what films you would like to see me review. Thank you.